come once again to discuss things.
Anyway, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2, joining me today is...
Geek for fun.
Geek for fun. Today we're continuing Jesus Month, or Christian Month, I don't know, we're
Jesus and his amazing friends, Ian.
Jesus and his amazing friends, I forgot, I'm sorry.
How could you forget? It was my greatest creation.
Dragon Ball DC was trash compared to this.
It was all leading up to this.
Is Goku one of Jesus' amazing friends?
Of course. All of God's children are, and that's why we're continuing this on with my pick.
Alfie, what'd you pick for us to discuss?
I picked the Martin Scorsese movie starring Willem Dafoe as the titular role in the character called Jesus Christ. The Last Temptation of Christ.
Indeed. This is an interesting movie. I've heard about it before. This is my first time ever watching it. Generally speaking, I think Martin Scorsese is a good director. You know, a hot take there. I'd really like to see him do something in the MCU, honestly.
Marvel snipers just trained on your location right now.
But no, like I do think Martin Scorsese is of course a good filmmaker. Willem Dafoe is a really good actor. It's weird to think about, but this was relatively early in his film career that he did this. So Willem Dafoe is just another one of those guys who kind of like always looked kind of old.
But like it's like he's a Saiyan. He reached his prime and then stayed that way. He does not. He always looked kind of old, but as a result, he never aged.
Yeah, pretty much. So is one of those things. It's one of those movies that I always kind of mean to watch and just never really gotten around to. But I gotta say, after watching it, it doesn't really do a lot for me. I didn't think it was particularly like clever or interesting. It just didn't hit for me, I guess.
And would that be in the sense of like the film itself, the interpretation of Jesus, or like just both?
A bit of both. Like the film itself, this is a obnoxiously loud movie. Just like every scene change, and sometimes just camera angle changes in the middle of a scene is just, you'll have like outrageously loud sounds playing. It's terrible. I hate it. Like even up to the ending, the last like end of the movie is just like someone got drunk and like fell on the film equipment or something. I don't know what happened. It's just it's really, really hard to watch. Like, and I'm sure there's some kind of artistic reasoning behind the choice and blah 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 blah, but at the same time it's just it just made it very unpleasant to watch, and not necessarily we wanted it to be unpleasant in that part. Well, good job, but I don't want to watch your movie anymore.
And I could definitely feel that as well. This is a movie that I was interested in purely because I heard that people hated it. Specifically, like when this came out, the controversy behind this was like one of those big storms. Like Martin Scorsese got death threats, and like in the 70s, like normally when stuff like this happens, like we'll get like the internet trolls with like Ryan Johnson and the people involved with like Disney movies. But when it was in the 70s, it feels like almost because like people got away with a lot more in the 70s for shit, that there's always more of a threat there because it wasn't internet. You actually did have to kind of go up to people to make that happen, to write a letter. The goal of the thing.
For what it's worth, this is 88, not 78.
There we go, 88. So say, oh man, once this all part before I'm born, it's all blends into just BA.
Yeah. Before, oh my god, you're so fucking. What have I done? When I first started talking to you, you were so meek and so like polite and modest, and now you're like, before Alfie there was nothing. I'm the writer of Dragon Ball DC. Do you know who my father is? Anyway, no, the it does not surprise me that there was outrage toward this movie. Apparently the book that it was based on or inspired by, I guess, is incredibly controversial as well, to the point where like the Catholic Church, the Greek Orthodox Church have like banned the book and called it blasphemy, and like the author was excommunicated from the Greek Orthodox Church over it. So all kinds of controversy following this book over the decades since it's been written in the 50s. And the movie is no different. So of course Martin Scorsese picks it because he had that like bad boy of Hollywood thing going for him for a while. Like before Scorsese was associated with prestige, he was associated with like being subversive. And that kind of faded, I think, like shortly after this, because I think this was like the last big Scorsese movie where it didn't feel like, oh yeah, he's doing his thing, because I think like Tarantino came in and kind of took that image from him a little bit. That's just purely speculation from someone who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, by the way. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that it's controversial. At times I think it's trying way too hard to be controversial and like subversive to the image of Jesus. Like, because the thing I always heard about with this movie, and it kind of put me in the movie's corner a little bit, was, well, it's showing very intently and leaning into the idea of the relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. That should be fine. And of course, Christians are just getting butthurt because they don't even understand their own religion. But then I started watching this, and like, the idea of Jesus making crosses for the Romans to try to make God hate him and abandon him and not make him be, who he's destined to be. That shit to me just got like overboard and almost like kind of insulting, and like it just feels like the kind of thing I'd read if like some fucking internet atheist like snickered and wrote a Jesus fan fiction or something. That one just like it seemed to cross like a line to me, and just kind of got to where it no longer felt genuine because of that. In my mind, it felt like I had a harder time. Eventually I kind of got over it, but I had a harder time like taking a lot of what the movie had to say seriously, because it just felt so almost like edgy and controversial for the sake of controversial.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very good point. So on the Jesus cross making thing, I agree. That is the part of this movie that I think stands out to me the most, as like, I can't even see the argument for why you would take it to that degree. I feel like that's a very tough. I mean, maybe the idea is like, we'll start with the thing that is most blasphemous of Jesus being like complicit in the death of people, and then go from there. You'll be all right with all the other shit we're gonna have to do. But I don't think it's presented that way. Almost like it's presented as almost like such a No, you can understand where he's coming from. Like Judas rightly calls him out on this, and Judas's kind of higher role in this movie is being the what the fuck, bro, dude. Like he's that guy. But like Jesus doing that, I think is just a. I like the idea of, because in my understanding, again, I'm not very well versed in it. But my understanding of the whole thing is like we know a lot about Jesus's early life, and then he just shows up and he's 30, and it's this whole period of time in between that where we don't really know what he was doing, where he was just kind of off the grid. I like the idea that he's aware somewhat of his divinity. He's aware somewhat of like this voice in his head, and he doesn't know how to handle it. He's scared by it. He's frustrated by it, and so he's just trying to make it go away. I think you can do that as a really strong opening to a film like this without making it this far. Like it's just they had, I think, a good idea in that of Jesus starts off not wanting to leave. Almost applying like the hero's journey to it, right? Like Luke Skywalker doesn't want to leave home, and giving him that moment. And I think you could do that. You just didn't need to. It's so horrific. It is so edgy in its depiction, and like that, to the point of where it's not even like, oh, he just hands the cross, makes the word, gets the crosses, hands them over, and then is doing. He's literally bringing the cross to the thing and holding, and blood from people being nailed is splattered in his face.
I know, right? Like that was the thing for me. Is it felt so far away from anything, and I agree with you. Like to me, the thing that was interesting about the portrayal was everything after that. You know, when it just cuts to him like screaming in the middle of the night because he can't shut up the voice in his head and everything, I was like, okay, that's great, because that is how you empathize with him. And then he creates the justification of why he's building the crosses, and I'm like, nah, that's still like a really shitty move that just it seems too far removed from who Jesus is. Like this movie is controversial, I think, publicly, or has the reputation of being controversial for showing Jesus as a human who sins and is tempted by sin. And I'd be perfectly okay with that, but like the level of sin that you're showing goes too far to me. And it's not even that it's entirely the movie's fault, because that's in the book too, apparently. But just, you know, you choose what you're adapting, of course, and I felt that was just a bridge too far. I don't care where it comes from. The thing opens that way, and it immediately didn't like lose me, didn't like make me refuse to watch it or like give up on it. I'm sure that did for several people, but it certainly like turned me off and made the movie have a much harder time getting to me. And then there's just other stuff that's like, you know, kind of also made it difficult. Like fucking Harvey Keitel as Judas is just the funniest casting in the world to me. I can't with that guy. And it's funny because I mentioned Tarantino earlier. That's really all I can imagine him as, is like the smooth kind of mobster Mr. Fix-It guy, you know? I can't imagine him as fucking Judas. And he's all like badass, like I kill people and fight for Israel Judas too.
He's like, yeah, they sent me to kill you, and the moment you stray from revolution, I will kill you. Like John Wick Judas.
I know, it's so like it's just a little too much for me. But I will say, like once you just kind of give it those two things and the movie just continues on, I do think it gets significantly better as you go. Like I think it's a significantly better watch toward the end. I mean, it's almost fucking 3 hours, so
yeah, it's 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, it had goddamn better be. Like it gets better as you go, but it is still like that opening bit. I'd say that like first 20 minutes of the movie is pretty hard to watch. And if you're like if you're a Christian and like devoutly Christian, I can't imagine giving this a good faith watch at that point. Like of course, someone should be able to separate their own personal views and their own religious beliefs and yada yada from a piece of media and be able to look at it on its own terms. But like, to me, that is just such a bad faith portrayal to start out with that I would have if I was a believer, I would have a really hard time being able to give this movie the time of day at that point. But yeah, the movie gets better as it goes on. But then it's weird for me. I kind of had a bit of a roller coaster with this one because it starts at a low point. It gets to a high point. I want to say about at the wedding. I like the wedding. I think that's the point where I'm most with the movie. And then it gets really low again for me because it just keeps kind of going, and it's gets kind of boring, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I know what this is. I get it. I've seen this part before. You don't really need to be showing it. We kind of get it. We know what it is. But then it kind of gets me again toward the end, and I'll gotta be 100% honest, man. If this whole movie had just been the end of this movie,
Like the old timeline.
oh my god, the what if,
If Jesus wasn't crucified, part 32. Holy shit! No. Oh, it's so scary. He was the original wife, YouTube.
No, Alfie. You don't even realize how trashy it is because, like, they kill off the first wife because she wasn't really getting the audience reception, and then he gets a harem.
And it was all a dream at the end.
Yeah, exactly. But no,
Oh
like,
my god,
legit-
that killed me. Make that a clip, please, and I'll. So good.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, the thing for me though is legitimately like that is the part of the movie that has the most to say, that is the most interesting. If this movie had opened with like maybe the scene in the temple, that to me would have been like the point at which you open the movie is when they go to the temple and you just extend out, because like that's the thing, is the best part of the movie just like skips over all the interesting stuff, like he just has a child after a cut, like there's just a child there, and I'm like, no, you should show the birth of that child and like just how happy he is and everything. Like that'd be the interesting part to show. And it's also what the title of the movie implies.
Yeah.
Is like, this is the last temptation. This is like the thing that he wants. And just the way it begins with the cross and the angel. I mean, maybe you'd have to back it up and start it a little bit earlier, or like move the scene in the desert, it's a good ass scene. I gotta admit, the temptations in the desert are amazing. But just I'm just so lost in it because like the John the Baptist scene is just fucking hella awkward, and then there's like just almost like too much focus on the apostles, and there's just like times where it really loses me as it goes. So I go back and forth on this movie, but yeah, definitely the part to me that I found the most interesting, the part that like really had me, and I was convinced it was a good move, was the last little section of the movie there, which is maybe like 20 minutes, if that. And in all honesty, if that had just been the whole movie, I would have been here for it. And you could maybe make the argument, well, that wouldn't really work if it was the whole movie, because you wouldn't have any relation to him. They needed to build that part up. But at the same time, like, I found myself zoning out and getting annoyed and getting bored with it when it was doing the stuff we'd seen a billion times. Like, at a certain point, it's, to make a stupid comparison, I don't need to see Bruce Wayne's parents get shot. I don't need to see Jor-El and Lara say goodbye to Kal-El. I fucking get it. Okay, I'm well versed I understand. Jesus is the same way. I fucking like, yeah. He goes to Pilate. He goes to this. This happens. He goes to the temple. Judas betrays him. I know how it goes. If you're gonna do something completely fictitious, if you're gonna pull a fucking Virgil, right? Or not Virgil. If you're gonna pull a fucking Dante, then just pull a fucking Dante, man. Just do it. Like, why spend so much time retreading ground? That part really kind of bugged me.
Yeah. Like all good what ifs, the best part is when it starts doing original stuff. People in the comments would be asking, when's Potter's Pilot gonna show up? He's like, we're not doing that. It's already, go read the Bible. Oh my god, that comparison is so on the money as well. It's so funny. But like the thing about this that I do think probably is the folly is it's the idea of like Scorsese was raised in a very Catholic environment, and when you're going to do a movie about Jesus, like the weight of that is kind of like, it's almost like the biggest, at least in the Western world, the biggest thing you can tackle, at least from like a weight of it standpoint. Even if you're not religious, it's just like, just the word of Jesus Christ like has like that heaviness to it. So I can understand like the temptation of being like the last temptation of Martin Scorsese being like,
should I do the Marvel movie or not?
Yeah, like, yeah, it's like, but he's like, all right, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna have to do all of it. Like, because the idea of it, and maybe this is more so the book, but again, if you're doing an adaptation as a director, you get to pick and choose what you like. You don't have to do the entire book. You can do what everything's on. So it still applies to him. But like, you've got the idea. I think the premise of the idea is really solid. It's like, what if when Jesus was on the cross, the devil approached him one last time, and this time brought out his fucking A game? Like, brought out, this is it. This is the final kind of battle. Like, if Jesus succeeds this, then humanity's sins will be redeemed. So I've got to make sure to get him with this. So what is the one thing I can give him that his dad can't? Is I can give him life as a man. I can give him happiness. I can give him peace. Like, it's a really fucking good ass idea. Like, it's not in the Bible, it's not religious, but like, it makes sense. It's something that if you weren't very well versed in it, and you said, as Jesus laid on the cross, the devil tempted him one last time, you would believe it. You'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, I could believe that's a story that would be in the Bible. It's not, but it's like, it's so on the money.
The thing for me is, it's such like a perfect way that it's sold too. That I found really interesting, because, you know, the devil talks about all the times that God did terrible things to people, and it's like, of course he wouldn't do it to you. You're his son. Yes, you suffered, you had pain, but that doesn't need to go on forever. That doesn't need to go on until you die. You can give that part up now. You know, the work is done. It's okay. Now you're saved from this pain, just like with Abraham and killing his son, and just like Noah and finding land again. Like, that's a really fucking good point, and I tried to do a little bit of research on this. I just kind of ran out of time, but the thing I found really interesting, I remember hearing in high school from someone who was Muslim. So I think my source is pretty accurate, but I again, I didn't have time to do research. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The thing I found so fascinating about that is Jesus is in the Quran. And instead of dying on the cross when his enemies came for him, God lifted him and put him up in heaven. So, literally, what an entire separate branch off of religion thought is what the premise of the fucking book is. You know? That's really good. I find that very, very fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's like, you've got that, and that's what you do to build it off of. But I think the thing that happened was, is you lose faith in that idea of its own, because you're just like, well, but if I'm tackling the crucifixion, like, shouldn't I just tackle the story of Jesus' life? That is more important than anything I'm going to touch. I need to do my version of that. So the idea I have can't stand alone. It's almost like that lack of confidence in it, I think, is kind of what this movie feels like. And not in lack of confidence in like their own ability, but I think it's like you want to do everything. To go back to your example, every Superman writer wants to type the words rocketed from a doomed planet, like the last sort of crypt. Like, everyone wants to type it. Like, we've all done it, but the reason why it keeps getting done is because everyone wants to have their take on it. So I get it, I understand, but I do 100% agree this would be a much better film. It could be a much shorter film, and it could be a much more interesting film. It would still be, I guess, just a little bit more upfront about it being like, we're not trying to actually do the story of Jesus. This is purely an exercise in fictional writing of examining Jesus as a fictional character, kind of thing, if we view him in that way. Which again, I think would be a lot more kind of understandable from people, because then you can get like to the full premise of like, all right, this Jesus is a man, like in this illusion, in this alternative world. Just on the film itself, though, leading up to that, I do feel like there's a lot of really good moments in the presentation of the events here. I like the dialogue quite a lot and how it's written, is that we go kind of how normal people speak, but not so much so that when they actually do start like reciting verses and speaking in like what Jesus has said and all of that, it doesn't clash. It feels natural. It just feels like I mean, I think Defoe does it best when like they're saying like, I just open my mouth and then God speaks through me, kind of thing. And you can kind of feel that when he's going those big impassioned speeches. I think that's a smart idea. I really like how the miracles are portrayed. I really like that scene when he brings Lazarus back. I think is really good, because it's not like he has a power. It's he's asking for help, and then darkness envelops. It's kind of like he doesn't know what's going to do. And then it happens, and then as he's holding Lazarus, he's just like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, like he's really amazed by himself.
Because this isn't him. It's, well, again, if you go the idea of Jesus is God, but like it's God acting through him, kind of thing. It's like it's a force that he can't quite understand and comprehend, and I think that's really good, because I think that's a really good way of like keeping the tone you want, having that level of like not even ambiguity, because we've got disappearing lions and snakes in this, but like the truthfulness of it, of why people, even if they saw a man get brought back to life, would still not immediately believe him. It gives that extra bit of like the doubt of the people around them, which again, like in the scriptures, from what I've looked up, is like Jesus was presented like as not even some of his apostles didn't quite get the divinity aspect of it. Like if you met him in the street, it wouldn't be immediately apparent that he was divine, kind of thing. And I think that in the case of this movie, we wanted to treat Jesus as like a man. I think that's a really good direction to do that. So I like those. My favorite scene in the movie, though, actually is again a retread, and it might just because I'm a fucking stan, but like David Bowie is Pontius Pilate, man. Oh, that's so fucking good. That's my shit, man. David Bowie should have been allowed to act in more fucking movies. Oh my god, he's so good. I love that entire exchange. I love the vibe of it. I mean,
Alfie, have you watched Labyrinth?
Yeah, of course I have.
Okay, I'm just saying.
I want more, Ian. He was gonna be Brainiac, Ian, against Christopher Reeve. I was robbed. But yeah, like that whole vibe of that scene, where it's like, I saw a YouTube comment talk about it on the YouTube clip of it. Is someone says it's like Pilate here is the principal who agrees with the student but still has to punish him anyway.
Yeah, no, that's pretty on point. Like, I like the way that he talks about it. He's like, you're more dangerous than the zealots, you know? Like, you're wanting to change the world, change how everything works, how people think. But we want it how it is.
And he's like again, it doesn't matter if you're not about killing people. That's not the point. Love or killing, no matter what your methods are, we just do not want them changed. Which I think is normally the thing with these kind of discussions is like, oh, we agree with you, but your methods are too harsh, kind of thing. I like that. Like, we literally do not give a shit what you do. Whatever you do does not matter. We just do not want things to change. I think is a perfect kind of argument for why, again, in the case of the Bible, why the crucifixion was the only plan they had. Like kind of like the martyrism of Jesus, kind of like this eternal salvation thing, because like again, Judas is always preaching like going for like do the more violent act, and then Jesus goes more peaceful route, but then like Pilate basically just bluntly says like, nah, it doesn't matter, you're both wrong, like that's not gonna work either way, whatever, but your way of coming at us is too small because we're too overwhelmed. And I think that again, a really good scene.
Yeah, no, that part is fantastic. And like, yeah, it's a good scene, and I'd be perfectly happy to have it in the movie. But again, it's scenes like that where I feel like it's at a detriment to itself. You know, I really do feel like, I mean, it's fucking Scorsese, right? Like, everything he shoots is gonna be a good scene. There's not a bad scene in this movie. It's just that the premise is more interesting than the stuff you see for the majority of the film. It's kind of, you know, it's funny, we talked about this movie a couple months back. It's a Wonderful Life, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good-ass movie, and like it's got a lot of good
Jesus, A Wonderful Life.
Yeah, no, it's a good-ass movie. It's got a lot of really interesting and cool scenes in it and stuff, but like the premise of, oh, visit a world that you've never existed in and see how worse off everyone is. That's a more interesting premise than the rest of the fucking movie, man. Like, you know, go where the meat of the thing is. Don't lollygag forever. And especially with a character, with a figure on the level of Christ. Like, yeah, you can do it well, Scorsese, but like you had here the opportunity to do something that no one else had done, and that's the thing that disappoints me about it, because it's just creepy. Because honestly, you know, I 110% did not think that was Satan when everything got quiet on the cross. It was so well done. I was so absolutely sold that this was like the controversial thing, and it was a legitimate offer of mercy from God to Jesus, and that Jesus was going to end up rejecting it in the end. And instead it's like the final like trick of the devil, and I'm like, oh, that's so fucking good. How did I not think of that? And I absolutely adored that section of it, and it goes by way too quick. Like, especially the part where Jesus talks to a follower. Oh my god, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, the whole just like, yeah, I'm talking about my Jesus is bigger than you. My Jesus is Jesus of Nazareth. My Jesus, the Messiah. And he's just like directly to him is, I'm glad I met you, but like, it's not. I don't care about what your facts are. It's kind of, this is what gives people hope. This is what makes people think is the story of Jesus. It doesn't matter if it was true or not. It's the that's what's important kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It almost comes across a little bit like Scorsese's kind of argument to like the 2010 atheist. Because it's just like Jesus himself is walking up and just like, I'm not the Son of God, I'm not the Messiah. And he's like, don't give a fuck, bro. This is the story of the Messiah is what we're talking about here. It's the thing, and it could be true, it could not be true, but that people have faith in it is the in strength of it kind of thing. So again,
And
I think
guess,
that's really good.
that seems to be what the like. I watched a little bit of video of the screenwriter talking about this, and he's like, that's the argument the book wants to make. That's the thing the book is most interested in, is talking about like whether or not God exists is inconsequential to the book. The thing the book is trying to do is show that Jesus is the one creating faith, and thus creating God. And that's the message that the author was interested in. And I fully agree that's a really interesting message. I still feel like you could get that across and do the more unique story.
Yeah, because you could almost be like, okay, so what does he do for all those years? Because we see him, he becomes an old man, he's on his deathbed. And we just like, what was he spending his time doing? Did he ever have kind of the want to try and help some people, to talk to people again? And I'm like the guardian angel telling, oh no, you've done that now, you don't need to, God has that handled, there'll be new messiahs that you won't need to do. But that really great line where he's raging out after Mary dies, and then the guardian angel walks up to him and is just like, oh no, there's only one woman and she has all these different faces, so Mary will be back again, like Lazarus' sister, and again. Oh, this is the way, don't worry, it's fine. Like more stuff like that, just as kind of that, like I don't know, just kind of like the voice in the back of your head telling you to take the easier path because it's too hard, to kind of thing, I think is always going to be an eternally relevant message. So I think doing that with a Jesus who still thinks it's not like he's doing it because he's given up. He's doing it because this whole movie he's like asking for God's help. And again, Jesus is always generally just like looking to God for guidance. So like the idea of a Jesus who still thinks that this is the right way to do it, and he has faith because he's been fully like kind of duped into but like he doesn't, he's trying to rationalize it. He's trying to say, wait, why is this the right, like kind of questioning it. And you've got like that character being the very well acted for a child actress, the guardian angel there by his side is like the second character. And what were the other apostles doing? What were they doing when the rest of the, like, once after the faith collapsed and all of these things, what happened to Rome and Jerusalem, all of these different things? Like, again, do ride out the what if a little bit more. It would definitely, you'd still be able to get your moments like that. You'd have this guy around, but you'd be able to put him in new situations. You'd be able to make new stories with Jesus. Again, if that's your argument, that Jesus is the one who created faith, then surely this old timeline is the one to show that.
Yeah, no, like I cannot think of a single thing that going through and doing these fresh-eyed takes on the life and times of Jesus Christ, I cannot think of a single thing that those do that couldn't be done better in the premise of this alternate reality. And that's the thing for me that's just much more interesting. And it would make the way that ends hit so much harder. It's just like the voice of Satan coming back in. It's like, you wanted this. You lived as a man. Now die as a man. Like, oh my God, that part's great. I love shit like that. Like, God, that's a good ass fucking, like, Alfie, we need to remember that and steal that for something, because goddamn, that's a good fucking line.
I know the exact character we're both thinking about. You should say that.
We'll see. Goku?
Clearly, Sal.
Yeah, but no, I fucking love that shit. It was so good. Again, I feel bad whenever I just like find a take on a movie and everything I have to say about that movie just goes straight back to that take. That usually tells me that, like, it makes me worried that my interpretation of the film is lacking and I'm not giving enough credit to the other things it was doing. So let's spend some time dissecting the choices that were made. Um, so, like I said earlier, I do quite like the take of Judas and Jesus in this. Man, I got a thing for when you make Judas like Jesus's guy. You know, like that's
You
that's
make him
so
the
much
top,
more
the number
interesting.
one, bro.
Yeah, that's so much more interesting than the other stuff I've seen done with the character. Um, like Christians get like so uppity about Judas. Apparently, I'm like, he was with him. Like he can't betray him if he wasn't like a member of the crew. My guys,
Yeah,
like,
surely betrayal works better when like he's the most trusted one. Like surely that hits different, right?
and apparently not. Apparently Judas was always bad, and Jesus just had too much faith in him, and that's more interesting. And I'm like, no, like that conversation between them when he's like, "There's some stuff you say that I don't get." The other day you said someone strikes you on the cheek, offer them the other. No, I cannot do that. um, and like that whole conversation about Rome has to be destroyed first because we need to build up the body in order to save the soul. And I was like, no, you have to save the soul first because the soul's the foundation. Oh, that was great. I really, really loved that scene.
I think that's really good as well because then you can have Judas be that guy who's the not even the skeptic, but like the philosopher, like the person who will ask the questions, like the person who will be like the why though, why this though, but what about this, what this, and so you get to have kind of through Jesus. And the movie a very well acted philosophical debate, which is like we're a geeky gentleman here. We love that shit.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like it's great, and I think that's a good way to do that as a convincing way to buy that these two are really friends. And from Judas's perception, okay, so this guy is God, but I still view him as my friend, and I still get frustrated with him like a friend does. I still like eternally would die for him like a friend would, but still I don't get him sometimes like a friend. But like they do a good job of really portraying like kind of how Judas is so conflicted, and this is just like if I didn't know he was the son of God, he'd be my best friend. But also I know he's like the most important thing in the universe, and that kind of has to color my relationship to him a little bit. It's like he's very like believably conflicted, and when like Jesus tells him you have to be the one to betray me, and he just starts like breaking down. He's like, how could you do this? And then Jesus is just like, no, but that's why God chose you, because you get to do this, I just have to die, kind of thing. That's really interesting. Like I don't, again, that I think that's something that people could argue about and stuff, but I think that's more of like a Judas almost in that Abraham situation of being forced to do the bad thing, but for the greater good kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought that was like a cool take on it of Jesus asking him to betray him, because like that's not even in fucking Superstar, which has like the really interesting and the thing I really liked of relationship between Judas and Jesus. So the idea that like not only is Judas like fated to betray Christ, but like Christ like requests him to betray him. That's fascinating. I particularly like for the movie itself, I particularly like the framing of what leads to that Jesus kind of the man part of Jesus wants to do it the way Judas wants it done. You know, Jesus and Judas, they're ready to literally storm the temple and kick the Romans out, and they're ready to start that true violent revolution. And when they're on the cusp of it, that's when he can't hear God's voice. That's when he can't do anything. That's when God is like, you know, giving him the silent treatment, looking at him disapprovingly. And that's when he knows that this isn't the way he can do it. He knows what he has to do. He knows he has to die. And I love the narration in that scene where he's like, or the inner monologue in that scene where he's like, please, if I'm to die, let it be like this, not on a cross. Oh, and then his hands start fucking bleeding. Oh, man. that one hit, man. The idea that he's perfectly willing to die for God, but he wants to die on his feet, and like part of the sacrifice is dying in not only the most brutal way, but dying in the way that is just the most like unromantic. You know,
it's humiliating.
Yeah, that was really, really interesting, and I think that had a lot to say about it.
And the funny thing, again, I can't believe I get to bring this person up in this conversation, but it's actually relevant. Grant Morrison. They actually talk about Christ in a little thing, and their thing about why the crucifixion has to happen, which has always stuck with me. Which, again, this isn't a biblical scholar or anything, but like I think it's a very good summation of what smart people have said. But like, you can't claim to be God until you've been nailed to wood. Like, you can't claim to know all things until you've experienced the greatest horrors as well. You can't just have the good stuff. You can't just if you want to sympathize with someone, if you want to be there for people and be like, hey, I know why you're here, I know why you're suffering, I'm here too. That's what has to happen. Like, you have to be the child in the concentration camp. You have to be the person who dies of starvation. You have to be on the fucking cross. That's otherwise you can't claim to know everything. You're just lying. You're bullshitting, effectively. And I think that's a really good justification for, again, it's just like, it doesn't matter that you're going to die bravely in battle. People want to do that. You need to be there for the people who are dying and suffering and are naked and whipped and laughed at as their fucking bowels collapse. Like, you need to be that guy as well. Like, you don't get the sugar-coated version of life, of the human experience. You need to feel all of it, because then once you have felt all of it, you'll know more than anyone. I think that's really good. I think that's a really good, strong argument for why it had to happen that way, why that's the moment of you no longer become a man, you become God after that, once after you've lived through the unlivable kind of thing, once you've suffered more as much as anyone else. I think so. Again, I really like that depiction of Jesus being, like, again, so he's here for it, but he's just, every time he hits a wall of like, okay, this is it, right? This is it, right? He has to change, he has to adapt. And I think that's a really smart way of doing it. But also, you can do that in the old timeline by maybe even having, like, every time he kind of doubts, maybe the hands start bleeding. And because they do that at the end, when he starts to remember, the stigmatas come back. Like, you could have had that, I think, for the film, that Jesus is almost kind of aware that he's still meant to go on the cross.
You know what I just realized, Alfie?
Go ahead.
Whatever happened to the Son of God?
Absolutely gonna guess demonetized or something with this movie.
But no, that's literally what we're asking for. Is we just wanted the whatever happened to the Son of God. Like, that's what's another Jesusism? Whatever happened to the last Messiah? Whatever happened to the carpenter from Galilee? Whatever happened to
Jesus, the man from Nazareth?
Yeah, there we go. Whatever happened to the virgin born?
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty apt. And again, the reason we say it is because that premise has led to some fucking amazing masterworks. So, like, again, I still think it's a tough movie to talk about, because there's moments that really do stick out, like we talked about at the beginning, of just choices which are like, nah, that's just not a good choice. That actually is. Like, to me, that's more offensive. And again, I'm a Christian, so I can't probably even speak on this. But just of the understanding, and my mother's and that side of the family is all very. So I know what people don't like to see. Like, the idea of Jesus making crosses is more blasphemous than Jesus having sex with Mary Magdalene.
And, you know, you'd think that, but in all fairness, from what I understand, the sex with Mary Magdalene is the more controversial part of this film, for
Oh, never
people.
mind.
Yeah, right. Like it's just, again, Christians. I don't get them sometimes. Like a lot of Christians do not seem to comprehend their own religion. It's amazing. The sex with Mary Magdalene is the thing that, like, maybe because that's the last one of the last things you see in the movie. Maybe people don't like the idea of Jesus fucking. I don't know what it is, but that's the part that, or like Jesus being tempted by the flesh. I don't know what it is, but that's the thing that people seem to get more upset by. They're certainly upset by the Jesus making crosses part. If I had to try to finagle some kind of reasoning or justification for it, I would probably argue if, kind of what you said earlier, the making crosses part is in the beginning before he's like forgiven by God and you know goes on his mission to be Jesus.
It's pre-origin.
Yeah. This is like after the cross, when he should be at his peak level of Jesus, when he should be at his ultimate power, when he should
GT Jesus.
Yeah, this is like GT, like completely no buff, no cap. Jesus, like it's just 100% him at full power. You know, mastered Ultra Instinct Super Saiyan. Yada yada. Like I guess that's some kind of justification for it. I do think that's a really weird take still. Like they're certainly insulted by both, but like from what I've gathered, the end insults them more. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was the way Mary Magdalene is put in this and portrayed in this. I thought it was reasonably clever, the origin that they gave Mary Magdalene. Because like as far as I've known, Mary Magdalene's always just been a prostitute. That was just it. But here I like the origin that they gave her of she's a prostitute because she was betrothed to Jesus and he refused her. And so that was the only option left for her after that. Because he wasn't of high enough birth to offer. Like, the fact that he refused her and he's of such low birth, basically, meant that she was just seen as, like, a disgrace. And so the only thing she had left to do after that was become a prostitute. And I'm like, that's really, really messed up and 100% believable. I really like the way that's reasoned out. I thought that was a very, very good bit of writing. From like a historical context of like writing ancient societies and stuff. I thought that was pretty clever.
Mm-hmm. It's also again one of those things where it's in that unseen period. It's in that thing where you kind of do have a little bit more wiggle room to establish some relationships and stuff. That I think again also from a historical stipulation and stuff makes sense. And again, that's also something where you can buy that as that's Jesus not even making a mistake. That's just Jesus being put in a really shitty situation for what like.
I mean,
just
like that. Even go ahead. Sorry.
Just like the example of like if we got rid of this characterization of Jesus and we just got actual like biblical text Jesus, who is both God and thing, who's not meant to take the flesh or anything, just meant to be that thing. But yes, he can't do that as like his fingers anyway, but he also can't like make money. Like he can't like make her show she's actually, so there's very little he could have actually done in that situation, even if it is it's kind of what we were talking last time with Superstar, where it's just like the time period he was placed in has fucked him over.
Yeah, no, I really, really liked that idea, because you're right. If the whole justification for it is Jesus refuses her because it's one of the things that God told him he had to do. You know, he's not allowed that kind of pleasure. Is really, really interesting. I really liked that take. I also like the portrayal of Mary throughout this. I thought she was, incredibly well written. Definitely I liked her in Jesus Christ Superstar, but she doesn't get a ton to do compared to a lot of the other characters. But this is probably the most well-rounded version of Mary I've seen in anything, so I appreciated that. She goes from from being justifiably like hating of Jesus to like kind of, you know, accepting him and falling in love with him all over again, and all of that. I really, really liked how that all worked, and how that all came together. I thought that was just very well done. The scene where she dies is really fucking sad. That was, I was not expecting it. I did not think that was going to be coming around the corner, and it did, and it was, ouch. That one hurt.
Yeah, and that one feels like a good. Because when I was watching, I was just like, wait, why is this happening? Surely, if the devil was trying to kind of make sure Jesus stay, they want everything to be good. But then I kind of clicked for me. It's like, wait, no. It's not just make sure Jesus is, it wants to die as a man, give him a life that he'll be happy with. We also want to break down all of his moral principles. We also want to start whittling them away and bringing them more over to my side. We want to corrupt Jesus a little bit more. We want to give him heartbreak and tragedy, but then also be like, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. You can move on. It'll be happier. And kind of, I think that's a good way of, even in the alt reality, it's not just a pure one-to-one everything is great for Jesus now. It still has to suffer, but it's done in a way where it's very purposeful and planned on the Satan's part to get Jesus in the places where he would want him to be. I think that's a really smart idea. That, again, at first I was like, that's a weird choice to just why now he wants to go back because he's fucking angry, but like, no, now he's angry at God. Now he's pissed. And I think that's
interesting, because I guess I had a very different take on that scene. Well, it's just the way that Mary like smiles, and the way that like it's portrayed as like the door opens and God comes in the room, and she doesn't know it at first, and then like the light just fills the room, and then she passes, and it's so peaceful and such. I honestly did interpret that as like God's last attempt to try to, you know, wake Jesus up out of this. I did not interpret that as a manipulation by the devil. I interpreted the scene, like retroactively, I interpreted the scene after the fact as the devil like spinning it, but I did not interpret Mary's death itself as an act of the devil.
No, I think you're probably right on that one, because how the actual death scene is placed is very peaceful. She's smiling. It's that white light that we get at the end of the film as well. What maybe was sticking to me more, that made me think that was Jesus's reaction to it. Is what made me go there, and like the devil spinning it. So yeah, maybe it might be a little bit A, a little bit of B. It's a good. Again, man, the alt timeline's got all the best shit. Like there's more vagueness to it, where you can have these discussions about it and spin off into different directions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, I liked the portrayal of Mary quite a bit. I also like just the casualness of Jesus in this, and particularly want to give a lot of credit to Defoe's portrayal, because he talks about like, oh God, I just opened my mouth and God starts talking through me, and I 100% believe it, because there's so much energy, and like I love the stories, because like he's aware of how like hackney and crazy he sounds as he's saying it, but he's like, no, it's the word of God, it's just how it is. I really like the way that all comes off and that all plays. I think he just does such a good job of selling it as kind of like a man enwrapped. And what's fascinating about it is when you compare it to John the Baptist, because John comes off like a fucking loon. It's just terrifying the way that John's portrayed. But Jesus comes off as like just so personable, and like he's still crazy, but it's like, you know, charismatic and stuff. And he's someone getting passionate and getting lost in his things. And I really, really like how that plays. And it's also interesting because as it goes on and the things get more violent and he starts saying stuff like, this is my house, is that justification of God's talking through him is like, yeah, literally that's what's happening. The God part that is somewhere inside of Jesus is coming out in those moments, and the man is fading to the background. You know, I really, really thought that part was great. And it's all just through the subtlety of the performance. I feel like the line, the justification for it is there, and Defoe really, really clicked with it and understood how to present that and make it feel that way. It's almost like he's playing a couple different characters at times. Like with the different ways in which he has to portray Jesus, I thought was really, really cool.
Destroy his house. Tell me how. He's very good at talking to air and asking for guidance. But that's actually
that scene where he
point,
pulls out his art. Oh shit, that was good.
Yeah, that was really good. I no longer need this. I have this. It has pulls out the axe. I think that's really good. The thing that I want to talk about a bit on Willem Dafoe is when I watched like an interview with him talking about just his career. Willem Dafoe's just an awesome actor, but when this one came up, he was just like, "Oh yeah, Martin Scorsese, cool. Who does he want me to play?" And they're just like, wait, Jesus, and he's like, the fuck? You guys, me? But then he read the script, and then he was kind of like exactly what you're talking about. He's like, oh no, I get it. Yeah, I can do this because this is very much the Jesus who is multiple things. It is the Father and the Son in one body, effectively, and then there's the separate one who's like the questioning, like kind of scared man, and then you've got the other one who's then the alternative timeline Jesus. There's a lot asked here of the different ways you have to portray him. So I think definitely Willem Dafoe as Jesus, when you say it, it's kind of like, wait, really? What the fuck? But when you see him and when you think it, it's like, no, I can buy it. I can buy it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think like his question of, oh, who does he want me to play is all that crazy, because I could see Willem Dafoe could play a lot of biblical characters. Really
for sure,
well.
for sure.
Willem Dafoe could do fucking Pontius Pilate. Willem Dafoe could do Judas. You know, like the man's got range. He could do any of those characters. I think he could play. I would watch an entire Willem Dafoe The Story of Jesus movie where he plays every part.
Willem Dafoe as the devil would hit differently.
It really would, though. Oh, that'd be good. Yeah. I don't know. It's just there's interesting things going on in this movie. Like when I started talking about it, and I do stand by it, there's things that lose me. There's things that make it just overall it's an experience that I didn't quite enjoy. But you gotta give it credit because it does hit well when it does hit well, you know? Mm-hmm. It really knows what it's doing. And I think that's just to the craft of Scorsese as a filmmaker and Dafoe as an actor and stuff. I feel like, you give those two the phone book and they can make it interesting.
Yeah, kind of a lesser team with this exact material, this would almost be unwatchable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was like a pure insult, where this is kind of like a justification for where, like, and that's not even to say, like, just on paper this is bad, it's just the moments in this that hit have to be executed. They're not self-explanatory. Like, sometimes as a writer you just have a moment that if you just read it on the page it hits. Like, it doesn't need anything else. Everything else can imply it, but just kind of like the moment itself kind of does the work. Nothing in this film does the work on its own. Everything that works in this is because the people doing it got it in some ways and really went ham on it. So that's to the credit. But I also feel like the things where this doesn't work are where they they maybe just they wanted to make that epic. They wanted to make that massive thing, and maybe should have pulled back and refocused their elements on the places where the idea was the strongest.
Mm-hmm. You know, it occurs to me, have we ever gotten a Paradise Lost movie?
I'd be surprised if we haven't.
I've never, like, heard of one. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's probably, like, something that's out there, but it's probably not very good kind of situation. I feel like with those, like, biblical classics and stuff, we should have gotten a Paradise Lost with one of those.
There's a 2021.
Oh, God. That sounds even worse. Now I'm scared. Yeah, I don't know. Just a thought. Like, I'd like to see Scorsese do something, like, with that. Adapting Milton's Paradise Lost would be cool. Anyway, I don't think I have much else to say about this, besides I really, like, I giggled at the scene where he turns the water into wine. It's just so fucking casual. It's really funny.
Yeah, it's very much the you could put like the fucking da 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 the motherfucking real fucking Jesus. And that's just Jesus great at parties, bro. But
man, if you're throwing a party, you gotta invite Jesus. He's the fucking best.
He's like, oh, God, wow, all we've got in this fucking place is bottled water and tap water. Don't worry, I know a guy.
Yeah, help me some bottled water. Oh, it's so cute. That's the clip that's the clip I'm gonna fucking cut out and upload independently and tell you to upload it on the Geeks for Fun channel. I'm gonna have to write into an episode of Dragon Ball DC. Gohan reach for a bottle of water.
You've had your fun.
Never. There will never be enough.
You will betray me.
Bitch, I know. I'll betray you for like nothing. Like 30 silver pieces. I've been like, well shit, man, I would have done it for like fucking bent paperclip or something. Like shit. Alright. You got anything else you want to talk about with this? Or do you want to just wrap up and go to ratings?
It is very loud.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they need to, in Vegas, they need to just turn down the dBs about 10 much. But I do like the score. I just think it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the moments of the score itself. I think is well done and fits, but it's just they go too hard with it, and it's used at inappropriate moments sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I found myself on multiple occasions having to adjust the volume of the film because Leah was asleep upstairs while we were watching this, and like that to me is like I understand because it's funny, the score is really loud and you'll get those scenes of just like really really loud like chaos, mm-hmm. and then there'll be scenes where everyone's talking at this volume and that's all you can hear, and it's just like what? Let me just turn up the volume on the TV a little bit here, and then it's suddenly like, why are you betraying me? I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Pick a lane. Like
someone needs to make the fan edit of this where it's the score of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, but no, you're right. The musical score is pretty good. I do. It fits well. It flows well. What's your last little fleeting thought? That fucking scene with the lion was legitimately terrifying.
I love that. It's like your mind was filled with great ideas of power. And like the fucking the lion just like come into my circle and then just vanishes as it walks in. That's so fucking good. That definitely really great scene.
And I believe Defoe's crazy enough to have just been in the middle of the desert with the fucking lion.
That was just B-roll.
It's funny because the other like Scorsese did it again, you know, like 20, 30 years later, because fucking Wolf of Wall Street, there's a scene with a lion. So Scorsese just likes putting fucking lions in his movies, apparently. We need to go do a Scorsese lion count because so far we're at 2, which is it's a statistically high number. Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and go into ratings. I will give this movie 2.75 out of 5. Really long waits in a whorehouse. That is an uncomfortably long amount of time that those people spend in that whorehouse waiting on Mary Magdalene.
Just how, bro?
Yeah, but like, just
See how long that fucking line?
I know. Could you imagine waiting that whole time? Like, Jesus, like, I got shit to do, man. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, we know. Who's a dude? I'm sick of you. I'm sick of this. Oh man, I love the fucking line.
No, it was an unreasonably long line.
But man, you got your fucking phone. Like, it's fine.
Just gonna play some fucking Candy Crush.
Dokkan battle, man. Trying to get some Gogeta. Oh my god. Alright, next. Hold on. I'm trying to battle this SR.
Here, take my place. I'll be ready after this. It's just like you keep getting bumped down the fucking line because
Oh my goodness me. Alright.
I mean, just like, can you imagine what a turnoff that would be too? It's just like there's not even a door or anything. It's just all happening right there, and you just like, fuck. And like the two guys are so bored they're playing like chess and shit, and I'm just like, Jesus.
But my favorite one is the fucking guy who's sitting next to Jesus, and like when it's his turn, he wants to be the bro. He like pats him. He's like, "Hey man, do you want to go ahead?" It's like just that fucking. As if he's at the fucking DMV. That dude was
real MVP of the movie right there.
real MVP. It's like, oh, you know, I'm kind of not feeling it. I'm kind of like semi right now. You wanna go ahead? It takes me a while. Oh boy.
Like at a certain point, that has to be part of what she's charging for. Yeah, like we're all in agreement. Like that's clearly like a sub kink kind of thing. It's gotta be.
Alright, Jesus, how do I give a rating after that? I'm gonna give this one 3 out of 5. Willem Dafoe hearts.
Okay, all right. Well, Alfie, you know how the track record is for people on this show, and we love them. They're the best people on this show. But we know how it is. We're like, okay, who's gonna call off this week? And I knew it would happen sometime in Jesus and His Amazing Friends month. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep Dogma in my back pocket as Ian's second pick, and I'll use it when one of those fuckers call off, and both of those fuckers called off, and I love them, but they fucking did it to me, so it's okay. I get to talk about Dogma, the fourth film in Kevin Smith's Jay and Silent Bob franchise. So yeah, we're talking Dogma next time on Geeky Gentlemen. You ever seen Dogma before?
No, this will be my first watch.
Oh, interesting. Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, fucking Jason Lee's in there too. Alan Rickman, Alanis Morissette.
That just never check out.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, everyone. I'm the philosopher.
And I am the champion of the oppressed.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.